Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of Eye of the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole Lore and Friend, the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon.
Hasn't Jaw the Dragon been upcoming for like ever now? Like I'm not gonna judge you for taking your time with your work, but also maybe don't call it upcoming until it's like actually upcoming. Completely unrelated, you know that song that played in the intro text of this video? Yeah, that's an upcoming Curbside Anthem song. Like my band, it's actually upcoming. And I didn't say it was upcoming until it was actually here. So keep an eye on our Spotify and Apple Music page and my music channel with the link in the description if you'll want to listen to that when it comes out in the next week or two.
Game developers are wasting their time developing titles for Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, and the PC.
Yes, game companies who want to make money off of games are wasting their time by maximizing the amount of money they can make off their games.
Right.
They should be focusing all their time and effort in maximizing their support for Nintendo Switch consoles. Every game should be coming out on the most successful gaming platform.
So every game should be a PC exclusive. Like, you realize that there's more PC gamers than console gamers combined, let alone than Switch gamers. The Switch has sold about 122 million units, which is impressive, but you also have to remember that it came out, 3 years before the most recent Xbox and PlayStation, so direct comparison is not super fair. And even still, at the beginning of last month, Microsoft had sold almost 20 million Series consoles. Sony has sold over 32 million as of February. And while the Switch did beat the last generation of competition, the best-selling 8th gen console was the PS4, which sold about 117 million units. So the Switch has beaten that. But it's not that simple. The Switch doesn't have super capable hardware, and it's also a hybrid system, a handheld and a home console. It's not the kind of thing that you would go to for a really immersive HD, traditionally AAA experience. Obviously there are exceptions, but it's not what you think of when you think of like a hardcore gaming experience. It's also not the kind of thing you think of when you think of a multiplayer game experience, because despite all of their success, Nintendo has refused over the decades to get even remotely competent online functionality for their hardware. Nintendo has usually succeeded by marketing themselves to the casual audience, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But that is what generates so many units sold. And that's kind of how you get the disparity between how many units of theirs are sold versus how many people see them as like the pinnacle of gaming hardware. Because they're just not the pinnacle of gaming hardware, nor are they really the target audience for a lot of major games coming out. Even though the Switch sells more consoles than Sony or Microsoft, Sony and Microsoft are selling more copies of multi-platform games. And frankly, most games that come out are selling more copies on competing hardware. That's just the nature of the market.
This isn't like rocket science. This isn't all that complicated. All we're seeing now is a lot of bluster, a lot of nonsense, a lot of like weird claims from developers who are paid off by Sony in order to support other platforms, but not Nintendo, into not supporting Nintendo Switch.
I am so tired of responding to this guy, but also it seems like no one ever gets tired of me responding to him. Like, every time I think people are tired of me responding to this guy, more people ask me to respond to this guy. And if I were a betting man, I would think you bet on that. You would bet on people responding to you, because that's the only way you can get people to watch your garbage content. I mean, I guess I can always rely on you to be around when things get slow. Like, I didn't want to make a third Last of Us PC port video in a row, and there's just not a whole lot of other stuff going on right now, so I guess I appreciate the fact that you refuse to go away. Like a sweaty, overweight IRS agent.
That's what we're seeing here. Let's be real here. This has been happening since the 90s. It's been like a very prevalent problem.
You know that since the 90s, Nintendo has not had complete dominance over the console market. Like, I'll give you that the Wii and the Switch were pretty dominant over the console market, but, even then, the Wii had the same problems. The Wii sold more consoles than the 360 or the PS3. But again, the PS3 and the 360 were selling more games, at least when it comes to multi-platform. Obviously, the Wii had a good lineup of exclusives that sold well, but so did the PS3 and the 360. Again, different markets. But are we just forgetting the Wii U, which frankly was a great system? And you can dislike the video all you want. Fucking YouTube hides dislikes now anyways, but the Wii U was a fantastic system. It's just it was marketed like shit, and it was being sold to an audience that didn't care. Nintendo is not invincible, and they have had nowhere close to market dominance over since the 90s. What the hell are you talking about? And this is also just completely not even acknowledging the dominance of PC, which again, stat right here, high. There are more PC gamers worldwide than console gamers, by a landslide. And as the major console manufacturers start showing their hands more, showing their greed, more people switch to the PC to get away from that. There's also a lot of places in the world that still, certain consoles just don't really have a presence there, while PC gaming is massive.
But now it's becoming more and more obvious because the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X have absolutely nothing to offer to gamers whatsoever.
I mean, frankly, I'd agree with that, but not in the way that you're saying. You say they have nothing to offer gamers because they're not Nintendo. I say they have nothing to offer gamers because they're overpriced and underfeatured. We are not the same.
The big new game of this generation, Hogwarts Legacy, is also coming to Switch, right?
But it's not here now. Also, if you think the Switch version of Hogwarts Legacy is going to even be remotely comparable to the PC or PS5 or Series X version, I have a bridge to sell you. And the bridge has no other end. It's a figure of speech. I sell you this bridge that goes nowhere and you pay for it.
You have games that are available on every platform. You have games that really should be available on Switch. There is no justification for Resident Evil 4 Remake or Elden Ring or Returnal or any of these other multi-platform games to not be available on Nintendo Switch.
I can think of a few reasons why those games aren't on the Switch. The RE4 Remake is a very technically demanding game that gets a lot of mileage out of the fact that it looks really good. So, of course it's not running on the Switch. Elden Ring is a massive open world game that, again, is very technically demanding to run because of the sheer size of it. So, naturally, it's not on the Switch. Are you seeing a trend here? And this is coming from me. I hate exclusives. I don't think anything should be exclusive. I think if a game can be technically functional and competent on a platform, it should be released on that platform. But two of the games that you listed here, arguably all three, would have to take severe performance nerfs in order to get up and running on the Switch, because again, the Switch is just a technically different kind of system than other kinds of gaming hardware. It's the reason why simulator games don't really pick up on the Switch the way they pick up on other platforms. It's because a walking sim or really immersive horror game just wouldn't work on a handheld platform that usually maxes out at 720p 30 FPS. Friendly reminder that Nintendo's own first-party games can get below 20 FPS on this thing.
And in essence, if a developer really wants to produce high-quality, unique, interesting stuff at an affordable price, right? If they want to stay within their budget, if they don't want to blow $100 million on Forspoken, they should be developing for the Nintendo Switch, which is a much more reasonably priced, reasonably powered console.
You seem to think that developing for the Switch is cheaper than developing for the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, or the PC for that matter. And I really don't know where you're getting that, other than the fact that the Switch is cheaper than those consoles to purchase. And if you think that has anything to do with game development prices, you are insane. Developing for a certain platform does not inherently make it cheaper than developing for a different one. I don't even know where you're getting that. How a game developer chooses to use their budget is entirely up to them. There's a million ways to develop a really good-looking game cheaply. There's a million ways to develop a PS5 game cheaply, a PC game cheaply, a PS5 game more expensive. A game like Forspoken having an overblown budget has nothing to do with the inherent cost of developing for certain hardware. That's absurd.
And that is the thing about this console generation. That is the thing about the PC, is that these platforms are indeed overpowered. They are overpriced. No developer can afford to properly support these consoles with develop games that can really max out their capabilities.
Well, that's weird because they keep doing it. At least on the PC they do. I mean, I talk all the smack I can about Naughty Dog, but if there's anything Naughty Dog does well, it's max out PlayStation hardware as well as they can. I mean, look at the Forza Horizon games too, if you want an example of Xbox hardware being pushed to its limit. And I mean, I can think of a million games off the top of my head that push PC hardware to its limit. I mean, Escape from Tarkov looks amazing. Most simulator games look amazing here. Microsoft Flight Simulator looks fucking incredible on the PC. Even multi-platform games, like most Capcom games, look great over here. Elden Ring is beautiful. I really don't get the point you're making here. It sounds to me the point you're getting at here is that because Switch doesn't look as good as the competition, that means the competition is overly powerful or overpriced, which I think is funny Coming from the guy who once tried to argue that the Switch version of The Witcher 3 looked the same as the PC version on max settings. Funny how now that you can't use that argument, you've just come up with a dumber one.
So instead, they shouldn't even try. If they want to make good, compelling video games, they should be focusing on making good, compelling video games, not on supporting useless pieces of hardware that really have no business existing to begin with, right?
I mean, if you really want to get petty about it, the only reason the Switch exists in the first place is because Nintendo needed to rush something out to replace the Wii U.
PS5 and Xbox Series X should not be supported, okay? They shouldn't even be available for sale, honestly.
I mean, I don't like either of those systems, but I'm never going to argue they should stop being sold. Options are always good. Even if the options are not things that I would recommend buying, competition in any market is a good thing. Eliminating competition is always bad.
And the only way that's ever going to happen is if we simply refuse to support them, don't pay their subscription fees, don't buy their games, don't buy their platforms, and instead focus all of our time, our energy, and our passion into playing Nintendo exclusives. I can tell you that I've had more fun playing Nintendo Switch Sports than I would have playing Elden Ring.
I've been staring at my screen for like 30, 40 seconds now, just trying to think of something to say to that. Okay. Keep going.
Right? It's more challenging. It's more complex. There's more to do in the game. There's more technical depth. There's more variety in the gameplay. Like, Nintendo Switch Sports just dominates Elden Ring.
Because it's a Switch exclusive. And for no other reason. Let's be real here. You may think I'm a little foolish for entertaining this argument even the slightest bit, but he insists that he's serious, so I'm going to take him seriously, as much as it hurts my insides to do so.
And I feel like very few people will want to admit that.
Watching you part your hair in your webcam is really, really disturbing, and it's going to be in my nightmares tonight.
Because they want to continue deluding themselves into thinking that like Elden Ring is somehow cutting edge or the best game on the market, when really it's not even close.
He was about to say that Elden Ring isn't progressive, and even he had to stop himself there. Like, despite all the nonsense you say, you couldn't even with a straight face say Elden Ring wasn't progressive. So at least we're seeing some character development here. Some. Not a lot, just some.
There are better action RPGs. There are better open world games. There are better games, period.
Elden Ring isn't the best game ever made, therefore Elden Ring shouldn't exist. Got it. So every game that comes out needs to literally be the best game to ever exist, he says, as he unironically praises Nintendo Switch Sports
on Nintendo Switch, and yet we're still in this delusional period where nobody wants to admit it. People really are trying to justify their $4,000 PCs, their overpriced consoles, the fact that we have a new console generation to begin with.
I mean, it's not really new. It's like 3 years old by now. But also, if you think everyone except you is delusional, maybe you're just wrong about this.
When none of that was really necessary.
No, it was necessary. It was necessary. And this is coming from the pro PC anti-console guy. A new console generation was absolutely necessary. If you think the PS4 and the Xbox One and the fucking Wii U were going to keep us going for another 5-10 years, you are insane. A new console generation was not only needed, it was overdue. And here's my hot take for the video. I think the 8th gen of consoles completely derailed the entire industry. Discuss.
What people should have done is just demand better games on the consoles they already own.
I mean, is that not what people are already doing? And again, the 9th console gen is not new, so bit of a weird argument here. Is that not what people are doing? Demanding better games on the consoles they already own? I mean, look at the backlash that sprung up for almost every AAA release recently. Saints Row got smushed into the dirt, Forspoken was smushed into feces, Suicide Squad was delayed because it looked so fucking awful. Gotham Knights flopped because it was so fucking awful. Really, what is a recent example of a AAA game that was bad and still was a monumental success, other than FIFA? I guess you could say Modern Warfare 2, but even that game is going to die soon. It's dramatically losing players. People absolutely are voting with their wallets. They're just not doing it in the exact way that you want. Because the way that you want them to do it is fucking delusional. You think Nintendo should genuinely be the only console maker and the only game platform on the market. And if you think I'm putting words in his mouth, just you wait. Those words will come out of his mouth in like a minute or two.
Like the PS4 was dead in the water, and so they had to pump out the PS5, which is also floundering. Like
the PS4 was a huge success. The PS5 is a huge success. The PS4 is also being more or less supported still. So stop it.
Just let the brand die and just support Nintendo going forward. Like, it's not all that complicated, but we're seeing like companies just fall over backwards trying to defend Sony. You have like Square Enix releasing statements saying that like Final Fantasy 16 couldn't possibly run on a gaming PC, which is like ridiculous.
Yes, that is ridiculous. I'm not familiar with this quote, but yeah, if someone legitimately said that Final Fantasy 16 couldn't run on a gaming PC and can only run on PS5, that might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Given the fact that it's coming from you, I kind of just assume that you're paraphrasing or you're taking some new meaning from what was actually said. I don't know the actual quote. I don't care enough to go look it up. You know why? Because Square Enix is one of the most untrustworthy companies on the planet. This is the same company that published the Avengers game and Forspoken. Two games that dramatically underperformed because despite what you want to believe, people are voting with their dollar. Would you look at that? People don't care what big publishers have to say anymore. They just care what they have to release. If Square Enix releases Final Fantasy 16 and it's good, God bless them. I don't care about the details. Just put out good games and stop being dicks.
Oh, we designed this for exclusively for the PS5. Like that's a load of crap, and everybody knows it.
A game being designed for one platform is not a load of crap, because you yourself were talking about Nintendo Switch Sports. What?
Like you have developers just crying about like, blowing $100 million on like Forspoken. You have like, the games as a service becoming more being pushed.
The whole games as a service thing is largely dying. Thank God, but also how out of touch are you? Games as a service are pretty much across the board on a decline. People are fucking sick of that. Because again, people vote with their dollar. And how people vote with their dollar is not your decision. You can try to persuade them to use their dollar a certain way. That's what you do. That's what I do. That's what every influencer does. And I just called myself an influencer. I'm going to vomit. I hate that word. How could I be an influencer if I don't have, excessive sponsors and self-promotion? Like ExpressVPN, use the link in the description to get 3 months of free ExpressVPN. This isn't actually a meme. You can actually go click the link in the description for 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. Did I mention it's free? ExpressVPN. But if a whole bunch of people are using their dollar in a certain way, it's usually an indication that there is some kind of communal understanding that something is good or bad, or something is worth the money or not worth the money. There's also nothing inherently wrong with games having $100 million budgets. Forspoken having $100 million budget, yeah, something is wrong with that, but that's not the consumer's fault, Square Enix doing a stupid thing with one of their games that's not the fault of the consumer. If anything, it's the benefit of the consumer because the consumer didn't buy it. The consumer didn't justify Square Enix's bad behavior, and therefore Square Enix is going to have to improve their behavior or die. That's what's happening to Ubisoft. That's supposedly what's happening to Square Enix right now. It's the ebb and flow of the free market. And you can't dictate what the free market is going to do. The second you start trying to demand the free market do a certain thing because you want it that way and for no other reason, you think this is the best thing, so you demand the free market make it so. You are now the asshole by every viewpoint. It is the free market for a reason. But there I go being Ron Swanson again. Anyways, continue.
You have like these people developing NFTs, right? Square Enix like legit fired their CEO and put forward the guy who was pushing for NFTs at the forefront of their company.
You seem to be focusing a lot on what Square Enix is doing. Which, by all means, make fun of Square Enix, but how is this remotely justification for your stance of Nintendo being owed a monopoly over the gaming industry? Because that's what you're arguing for.
And yet all anybody wants to talk about is this alleged idea that Pokemon is like going to start contributing to NFTs to begin with. I don't see a lot of people focusing on the Square Enix side of things, but I see people like trying to make stuff up about Pokemon. So, interesting double standard there.
Well, the Pokemon company was looking to hire someone with NFT experience. So it seems like they are trying to do something with NFTs. Can't wait for your video that says Pokemon NFTs are not a big deal or Pokemon NFTs change the NFT game. Because you know that once this becomes official news, that's what he's going to try and spin it as. But yeah, people aren't really talking about Square Enix's NFT thing anymore because A, it's kind of old news at this point, and B, NFTs are a fucking meme. Why would we continue to talk about a fucking meme? Like, legit, NFTs are just a meme that got taken too far. So, why would we continue to talk about it? No one's talking about the metaverse anymore because, again, that was basically just a meme that got taken too far.
Again, all this comes down to is Nintendo bad and everything else good.
Weird, coming from the guy whose entire channel is based around Nintendo good, everything else bad.
You know, like, you're not allowed to be a Nintendo fanboy. You're not allowed to talk about, like, how Nintendo is superior to other consoles, but...
No, you're allowed to talk about it. You're allowed to talk about whatever you want. The same way that we're allowed to make fun of you for having delusional opinions.
But if you like gaming PC, oh, you're part of the master race. Oh, if you're a Sony fan, oh, you have the most successful TV show of all time. The best video game adaptation ever in The Last of Us HBO.
Well, actually, the best video game adaptation of all time is the first Silent Hill movie, but go on.
If you're an Xbox fan, oh, you're going to own every single game company on the planet, and you have Xbox Game Pass, which is the most successful gaming streaming service in the world, which isn't true, by the way. Nintendo Switch Online is more popular.
Holy shit, there's so much wrong here. First of all, fucking lol at you trying to throw shade at Xbox for buying up a bunch of game companies after you literally proposed Nintendo be the only company people work with. But also, did you just say that Nintendo Switch Online is more popular than Game Pass? Nintendo Switch Online is a fucking requirement for you to play your games online if you have the Switch. Game Pass is an optional game service. Of course Switch Online has more users, and that shouldn't be a bragging point for Nintendo fans. That should be an indication that you need to look into the fucking mirror and ask why you still support this garbage-ass fucking company.
Why exactly are we here? Like, how exactly did we get to this point? Like,
that's a great question. How did we get to this point? If you want the answer to that, basically just go through my response video playlist and you'll see a million reasons why we got to this point.
It really does feel like the vast majority of gaming YouTubers, of critics, of journalists, of analysts, like, they're just downplaying the very real fact that Switch is the most popular platform by far for actually playing games.
Switch is the most popular game console. That doesn't mean it's the most popular platform for playing games. That would be the PC and mobile devices. Those both have you beat. Nobody is ignoring the fact that the Switch has more consoles sold. You are ignoring the fact that that's not where the conversation ends.
They just don't want to admit it. They just do not want to admit that Nintendo has won the console war, and everything we're seeing now from, like, these clickbaiters, from these shills, from these influencers is just like trying to keep the farce going for just a little bit longer to continue getting those clicks, to continue getting those super chats, to get those donations, those Patreon contributors, to just continue pretending that, like, someday the Dreamcast 2 is going to come back and just destroy everything.
I love this thing you do where you're like, everyone is such a shill, everyone's saying these ridiculous things like the Dreamcast 2 ? Like, you're lumping literally all of the people who disagree with you in with people saying something that I've never even heard before. The Dreamcast 2, my friend? You're lumping everyone who disagrees with you in with the Dreamcast 2, all for committing the grave sin of not really liking the Switch that much. Are you fucking kidding me?
Like, that maybe we'll get a good game on Xbox. Maybe if we keep supporting them. Like,
There's a lot of really good games on the Xbox. Not a lot of great first-party games, but a lot of good multi-platform games.
Why does anyone care? Why does anyone support any of these platforms?
Because they have something unique to offer?
PlayStation and Xbox will never be relevant. They never were relevant. They could never compete with Nintendo consoles, and I'm kind of sick of pretending they ever could. And PC gaming is so delusional. Like, you guys think that, like, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, like, these are all, like, viable PC exclusives, which isn't even true, but...
Again, why Why are you taking the people who disagree with your opinions on Nintendo and then characterizing them in ways that nobody actually thinks? You're making yourself sound so fucking ridiculous and out of touch. Like, you really sat in front of a webcam and were like, I'm gonna make fun of PC gamers, and you know what I'm gonna use to make fun of them with? Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. Those are the biggest PC exclusive softwares. Like, what? Do you not have a phone?
Like, the fact that you use your PC to, like, look at naked women on the internet, or like, you consider we're talking about PC gamers, people like, oh no, it's Alex, like probably male women, I suppose, femboys, whatever they call them. What do they call them? Traps? Like,
all this coming from the guy who once forgot to clear his search history and then flashed it on screen. That is a real thing that happened. Believe it or not, PC gamers are not the only ones who watch porn. What the hell are you getting at?
I don't exactly know, but like, considering that you can only find that on PC reliably, that's your favorite exclusive. That's what you're into. That's what gets you excited. That's what gets you passionate. Me, the actual gamer, I'm playing Nintendo Switch Sports. I'm playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I'm playing Metroid Fusion, Mario and Luigi, Wario Land 3. I'm looking forward to Tears of the Kingdom. I'm playing Cereza. I'm playing Fatal Frame 4. Like,
I mean, I could name 5 million games that I've played on PC too. You really have not made a single argument. Like, let's just go through all the stuff you've said so far. You said Xbox, PlayStation, and PC are overpowered because they're more powerful than the Switch, which really should not be an indication of something being overpowered. It should be an indication that the Switch really needs a successor, because it's fucking wildly underpowered by modern standards. So that's a moot point. You say the other platforms have nothing to offer gamers because something Square Enix $100 million on Forspoken, which is a moot point because that's not even a real argument. And now you're saying PC gamers don't play games because there's porn here on the PC? Do I have to go through how many active users Steam has, or how many copies of PC games have been sold, or how much revenue PC gaming has generated? Like, do I really have to do that? I don't want to. I'm tired, and I've been recording for way too long. Like, normally I try to make my points very concise and specific, and like having a point, and all those good things that you like to hear from a commentator. But the nice thing about responding to you is, like, I don't think I have to do that. I don't have to do my job with you because it's just so self-evident why you're wrong.
I'm playing all these great Nintendo games that just most people are desperately trying to downplay.
Or emulate. You could just emulate all those games.
Enough is enough, right? If you're not playing exclusively on Nintendo hardware, you are not a fan of video games.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's healthy. This is cool. This is a cool video. I like it.
If you're talking about the Last of Us HBO, you're not a gamer. If you talk about like Xbox Game Pass, a bunch of these old games that you can easily acquire and other used through a variety of different means, you're not a gamer. If you care about like Xbox or PlayStation at all, you're not a gamer.
Yeah, I'm done with this one. It keeps going for another like 30 seconds after this. I'm just done. I'm done. You've gotten to the point in your videos that you always get to where you just start like spraying piss out of your mouth and acting like it's words, and I just don't care anymore. Competition in this industry is good, and if Nintendo is falling behind the competition in certain ways, like good pricing, game variety, hardware performance, maybe you should, demand more of them instead of defending every little thing they do. And then maybe if you demanded more of them, they would give you a better product and you would stop being left behind by the rest of the industry. But given how much weight you've put on recently, I'm pretty sure you're used to being left behind. Toodles.